Hey YouTube, it's been 3 days since we wrapped up BBR Chicago, and just wanted to uh, recover a little bit from it all, and then give you guys an overview of what went down and just kind of talk about it a little bit. Um, Cliff Notes version, it was a great success. Uh, the results were day one, 3 Allied victories and 2 Axis victories. We had 5 tables, just to kind of preface all that. We had 5 tables going. Day one, 3 Allied victories and 2 Axis victories. Day two, 2 Allied victories and 3 Axis victories. And then day three, we had 2 Allied victories and 2 Axis victories, which makes it an exactly 50-50 split between Axis victories and Allied victories. Now, it shouldn't have been exactly 50-50 because 2 teams dropped out after the second day, basically from exhaustion. So we didn't have anybody playing for the 5th medal. We joked around, because it's a gold, silver, bronze, iron, and we joked around about making it copper or tin or lead or aluminum or whatever. We eventually settled on copper, but alas, there wasn't a copper winner. So, is what it is. In terms of like dropping out from exhaustion, you kind of have to know what you're getting yourself into. It's like kind of like what they say: if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen, kind of a thing, So some people aren't, I understand it's a lot, it's a big endurance thing, so I get it. But alas, 2 teams dropped out, which only affected the play for iron, but otherwise, still the lineup for silver, bronze, and gold weren't affected by those two teams dropping out. In the end, Hammer Time and Madman as the Mad Hammers won gold. Krautfather and Mueller Time as the Sauerkrauts won silver, and myself and Raider Bill won bronze as the Moose Raiders. Team Blackhawk won iron. Team Blackhawk is Deathbot and Justin, and I forget the other person's name off the top of my head. But anyway, they won iron. Day one, a note for day one was that one game ended early because Team Blackhawk as Axis failed to take Paris on round one, and that started off a domino effect of kind of disasters for them. The game ended early with the Axis losing Berlin on round four, and part of that also was because they were unaware of the rule where if you have more than 10 or more Axis units on the Eastern Front, then Russia can declare war in round three, and they weren't aware of that, so that put them at a further disadvantage, and they eventually lost. And lost Berlin and had to concede on round four, and they were playing against Madman and Hammer Time, so they got raked over the coals a little bit, but that they kind of made up for that loss. Where on day three, I think they played Clown World, and they managed to successfully take Tokyo at the end. So kind of balanced out for them. They lost Berlin the first day. Day three, though, they snagged Tokyo. So cool, it ended up working out for them in an extent, But anyway, so that was one highlight of like a crazy thing that happened. And then day three, me and Raider Bill, we were playing against Apple Core, and the game was extremely close. It was a crazy game. We were the Allies, they were the Axis, and I managed to successfully take liberate Moscow, and then later in the game as Russia, and then later in the game, Raider Bill and I, as U.S. and U.K., managed to snag Rome with like 1 tank left. I think that was the same thing with the Tokyo snag too for Team Blackhawk. They had 1 tank left as well when they took it. So, crazy stuff happens. Let's see. In terms of that Apple Core game, like the dice gods were in my favor, and just like I saw the heavy tanks coming, pulled out, let them take Moscow, whittled them down a little bit, and then I went back in and managed to retake it. And the dice gods were in my favor, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. It gave me flashbacks of when I think it was St. Louis 2. Hammer Time did a sea lion against me with heavy tanks. I was UK, and I managed to beat them because I just rolled extremely well and they rolled not as well as they should have, and it was like the same thing happened here. The Rome fall was a little more even. We were like rolling and whittling each other down one unit at a time for the most part. It was crazy. That game was unbelievable. Definitely thought we were going to lose it for a good chunk of time, and then it just ended up in our favor. Interesting note for all 3 days. I don't think Spain was activated at any point in any game, which was interesting because that was in BB4 and BB5. It was almost a given that the Axis would align Spain to either pad the right point or give them a big advantage of securing Gibraltar and stuff, and it just never happened in this game. So in this tournament, as far as I know, from what I could see at the different tables, I just didn't see it happening. So that was interesting. Overall, we're very happy with how the tournament turned out, other than the 2 teams dropping out, which meant we didn't have 5 tables to play. We wanted it so, in past tournaments, if you were only playing for 3 medals, it's like, oh, you didn't score high enough. Okay, well, you don't compete for a medal. But that was something we wanted to do differently with this tournament, so that each team had a reason to play on the final day and stuff like that. What else? Let's see. And speaking of which, Madman secured these awesome medals. So this is the bronze medal that I won. I'll show a little close up later. So we had actual medals for people to win. We didn't have one for iron, but we had actual medals for gold, silver, and bronze. Let's see. Yeah, basically, just about covers it. We had a lot of prizes donated from Combat Miniatures and other people. I think I chipped in a few things as well. Overall, just a good success. We had to do a lot of stuff this year on our own, pretty much. Backing up a little bit. Big shout out to Rich from Combat Miniatures, who stopped by on day 2 to check things out, and then he played a little bit on day 3 with Clown World, and before he had to jet off. And then also big shout out to Rommel and Prussian Gamer for bringing as the Prussian Grenadiers, for bringing the 5 tables that we had to play with. And I think he sold one of them to Deathbot. That was at the end of the tournament. He sold one off to Deathbot too, which was pretty cool. So next time will be even better. Basically, is what I'm getting at. We had to do a lot of stuff on our own. Now that we've got one of these tournaments under our sleeves, is that the phrase? Yeah. Now that we have one of these tournaments in the can, there we go. Now that we have one of these tournaments in the can, next year will be even better because we don't have to buy as many copies of the game and secure all the things that we need in order to make a tournament happen. So next year will be even better with more prizes, more food, or better. It's not more food, better food, and more snacks. That's what I'm getting at. In terms of like the food that we had, day 1 we had Chick-fil-A, day 2 we had Domino's, day 3 we had Jimmy John's. So next year we'll have, since we don't have to pour the funds into all the pieces, we can pour more of those funds into even better quality food, and more snacks and more prizes and all that. Just now, we just have less to prepare for essentially in terms of making it happen next year, or if not next year, whenever we do it again. I'm sure Madman wants to do it again next year. Big shout out to Madman. I know him and myself were hosting this, but in terms of who made it happen, it was Madman. He was the one who contacted the hotel. He was the one who organized the food, and he's the one who did all the actual organization. I helped actually run it and was the rules consultant person while it was happening, and so on and so forth. But overall, Madman is the one who deserves the credit for making this happen. Usually Madman and I and Hammer Time are on a team together, but since we were hosting, I didn't want to be on the same team with them because I knew it. They were going to snag gold, and I thought it wouldn't be fair if we were on the same team and so on and so forth. Other things to talk about, if I can recall off the top of my head. Day one, Raider Bill and I, it was my first time playing with Raider Bill. We were Axis, and we barely lost our game against Midwest Command. Came down to like the results of like one battle. It was a very close game otherwise. Day two, we ended up being, even though we lost, we were the third. What was it? Take that back 1 second. Day one, there were 3 Allied victories and 2 Axis victories, so I think we were the third highest scoring Axis team. So we ended up playing against Madman and Hammer Time, and that was a fun game. Even though they creamed us, I knew they had a solid Axis strategy, and I will say, if you play them in their Axis, watch out. We were, of course, playing with what is right now being called BB-6. I presume there will probably be more changes before BB-6 is completely finalized, based off of my understanding of it. And so on and so forth. But it was my first time playing BB-6 with the new turn order. I thought it was really cool because it allowed, in terms of the clocks, it allowed people to do their turns kind of simultaneously. Germany and Japan could go at the same time. America, UK, and China could go and plan at the same time. And it just ultimately saved a lot of time. And you have Commonwealth, France, and Russia together as well. So it just saved a lot of time. I think the changes so far are interesting. For the most part, I think a vast improvement because of that turn order change, especially. A lot of the changes with US's national objectives were good, I think, and gave a lot of money to the US because it was in the past, US was always my least, I didn't play US, but US has always been my least favorite country to play because it was just so difficult to make like the proper right exact purchases that have an impact, and so on and so forth. And then just like, you know, I never played with Raider Bill before, so having to like learn how to work together with a new teammate, and you know, we lost the first day, we lost the second day, but we still scored enough like points to kind of put us at to get us to play for bronze, and then managing to win that was really cool. So shout out to my teammate Raider Bill, but most importantly, shout out to everybody who came and made this tournament possible. It was super cool. My parents even stopped by on the first day to check things out. My girlfriend and a friend of ours stopped by to like check things out because, you know, no way I can get her to play a game longer than 2 hours, you know. So it is what it is. Yeah, I had a lot of people to come and check it out. There was even a person at the hotel. Speaking of which, the hotel, the Hampton Inn and Suites in Addison, Illinois. It was a great location. No complaints about the room. What was awesome was that we had temperature control over the room. We could, if it was too hot, we could just go and adjust the thermostat, and that to me was a big deal because I hate playing when I'm overheated. So that was a big benefit. Let's see, let me think. Losing my train of thought a little bit, but yeah. In the meantime, here, as you can see, I have a game set up, and this was prior to the tournament, so that I could study and strategize a little bit. But here, let's take a look at this. Look at this medal. It was Madman's idea to have actual medals for the team to play, and as you can see, like, I'm sure this isn't actually made out of actual bronze, but like, it's a nice little heft to it. And then the necklace even says like 3rd place on it, so it just was really cool to actually win like a medal rather than just like having it written down on the banner and such. Madman has the banner, so I'm sure he'll show it off in his recap overview video. But yeah, just a great time. Great time was had, not just by myself, but I think everybody had fun, except maybe the 2 teams that dropped out. But overall, great success, and I'm glad we could make this happen. I'm looking forward to being able to do it again in the future, and
just kind of go from there. But yeah, it was a great time. Probably repeating myself a little bit at this point, but I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish, not just in terms of me and Raider Bill, my teammate, but just what Madman and I were able to do for the tournament as a whole. When the end of when the tournament finally ended and we packed things away, Madman and I were able to breathe a sigh of relief and just be like, oh my God, we did it, it's over, it's done, and it was a success. It wasn't a failure, it was great. So good fun was had by all. Overall, like I said, a success, and we'll do this again for sure. Thanks again for everyone who came out to roll some dice, and it's you know what it is. It's always better to play a game in person than YouTube Wars. Even though I do like doing YouTube Wars, but it's just so much better to be able to play in person. So being able to go down to St. Louis and then come back up to Chicago and have 2 tournaments there. I've also been to Atlanta as well. So it's just like the more tournaments that people throw on, the more chances people can play in person and meet other people in the community, and it was great. So yeah, huge shout out to everybody who came, everybody who helped out. Thanks again so much for coming, everybody. It was a blast. You know what, I usually end the game with saying like roll the dice better, and sometimes that's what you have to do. That's certainly what happened to me with Moscow. I just rolled the dice better, but dice are always the tricky factor, right? So anyway, thanks again for coming, everybody. Get some games in, know the rules, especially know the rules when they change, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to end this video exactly, but thanks so much for everybody who came out. Hammer Time, Madman, obviously, Krautfather, Midwest Command, Team Blackhawk, Apple Core, and everybody else I'm forgetting off the top of my head. It was a great time. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming out. It just was a blast. So take it easy, roll some dice, and we'll see you next year.